Right, we've got our panel back up. Now, I want to move on to leave domestic politics and we want to go international because a big announcement that happened this week was this Aukus security alliance between the US, the UK and Australia. But of course, there's been a huge backlash to this alliance, especially from the French, who have called it a stab in the back. And the Telegraph has reported that for some in Germany, it amounts to a declaration of war. So it's a big story in terms of geopolitics. Dean, I'm going to come to you first. Dean Russell, Conservative MP for Watford. What did you think about this alliance?
We've always had a long-standing and very deep relationship with Australia and the US. So for me, it's an important one, in my mind, to strengthen defence and security. But I do think one of the stories that isn't really coming through is what this actually means in terms of jobs and science for the UK as well. I mean, when you look at what's actually happening, you're going to create hundreds of high-skilled jobs for science roles. I'm a former physicist myself, and so I think that's going to be absolutely key as we look forward in terms of where the world's heading in terms of science and technology. But also it's going to be worth billions for the economy too. So, you know, I appreciate the sensitivities to this, but I really think the deal was incredibly important. I think it shows the importance that we have in terms of those relationships. Let's remember, just a few months ago, people were saying our relationship with the US wasn't that strong, and I think this shows that continues to be the case, that we are in a really good position with them. But also, I think it's an important one for the future, for defence, for security, but also for the scientific industry for the UK.
Dean, we heard from a former national security advisor to the Prime Minister, and he said that this sort of spat would probably make things more difficult in terms of the United Kingdom's relationship with France. And this is something that I have heard from some other Conservative MPs this week, particularly when we have got other really important issues, like we're trying to work with France on migrant crossings, for example. I mean, do you have concerns that this will sour relations with France, who are our closest neighbour?
Well, we've always had a long-standing relationship with France. I'm hopeful that's not the case. You know, there's with these sorts of things, of course, there's going to be rhetoric publicly, but I'm sure the diplomacy and the diplomats behind the scenes are still continuing to have conversations. They're still an incredibly close ally. We do an awful lot with France, and we'll continue to do so. So I'm hopeful this won't be any sort of rift that grows over time. I think over the next few weeks there'll be lots of conversations, but effectively, you know, this was an important decision to be made, and I think it was a very strategic one that had to be made. But also, I'm hopeful that with France and Germany and elsewhere, that they will see why it happened, but also work together moving forward, and I'm sure that will be the case.